All right. Welcome, everybody. It's going to be a great day today. Lars is looking great. Welcome back to the Unlocked podcast. My name is Tony Hokinson, and I'm here with Chad Lingefeld and Lars Johnston. And today we are going to be talking about, I think it's going to be an exciting podcast. I think if people hang on past the first 4 minutes, we're going to deliver some real value here. But
why do you think the first 4 minutes are going to be terrible?
Well, I think the topic might scare a few people away, but if they stick around, it'll bring some real value.
With a raging introduction like this, I don't know how they would leave.
I'm just, I'm driving curiosity. People are going to see what is, really what to come. But anyways, today we were talking about prioritizing processes.
Prioritizing processes.
I was trying to think of another P to add on there. Prioritizing process for productivity.
Prioritizing. Yeah, I like that. Well done.
Oh.
Lars, you're looking extra chipper today. What's going on with you?
Well, guys, it's the Calgary Stampede right now. And the Calgary
Did you get a little bit run over?
The Calgary Stampede, rude, Tony, is one of the largest rodeos in the world. It's also quite a social.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't strike me as the biggest cowboy.
Well, yeah. Haven't rode a lot of bulls in my day, but there's a fairly significant social aspect of this stampede, and I spent a fair amount of time yesterday being social.
Oh,
you got that worn out by just talking?
So
he was playing golf yesterday afternoon.
I borrowed some of today's happiness yesterday, so I'm just in a. I'm in a, what is it? I don't know. This is going to be great because my brain's functioning fully, as you guys can tell.
Wonderful. Can't wait.
Yes, I remember a meeting that we had very similar to this one time before. It's
at a deficit. There it is. I got it.
Yeah.
I'm at a deficit today.
Okay.
I used it yesterday. So, yeah. But thankfully, we're talking about processes, so I really got nothing to say anyway.
Yeah. So I wanted to specifically talk today about, I think, so our podcast is about growing and scaling our business. And one thing that we've really struggled with as we grew is we grew without process and documentation. So everyone knew what to do themselves. But then when it became to scaling and teaching new employees, there wasn't anything documented. It was all living in our heads. Sometimes it was just figure it out on the fly. And so over the last 4 or 5 years, we've really spent a lot of time, actually more so 2-3 years, trying to standardize our processes, A, figure out what they actually are, and then B, put them into documentation. And then C, I think, which is what's been the hardest part, is making sure that people know how to access them and learn from them and actually understand them. It's one thing to
use them.
Yes, right. And that's the piece that we are currently stuck on pretty majorly. So wanted to see what you guys think. How would you guys define process documentation?
How would you define process documentation?
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that is, Well, I would go back to a couple of things. One, once you define a process, is this something that is a physical activity, something that requires human interaction for this to work? Or is this something that can be aided by software or automation? So the reason that I would interject that is because at the introduction, I think you probably research and lay out the workflow exactly the same, but understanding can this be what's the word, rerouted, diverted by human interaction? Because if it's automated or software driven, then you can only go one path in a process. Then that forces people to do the same thing consistently. But if it is subjective to human interaction, then you now have some deviations from the process, which is what I would assume that you were talking about, the importance of it, because now people are making just decisions that don't always follow the exact process that you have developed.
Yeah, sounds about right. I think I understand what you're saying there.
Well, okay. Let me expound a little further. There's an art and a process, ironically, to developing a workflow or a process diagram. understanding how you get from point A to point
Correct.
Z. Some of those require a human to follow a precise process over and over and over again.
Yep.
When they do that, there is a subjective decision-making along the way that they may get off track.
Yes.
Okay. Then that's when you have to have it documented and available for people to digest it so that they can follow it back, because they may vary off of that process. If it is software or automated driven, then it minimizes the diversions from that process, but it's effectively starting from the same starting point. I think, to your point, Tony, the problem in a lot of small businesses, especially in the locksmith realm, is one, Lars' favorite statement, it depends. So we always start here, but it depends on all of these factors of the next decisions that we make. Or secondly, the process is inherent to one individual so far that they believe this is the way that it should be done, regardless of if there could be a better process or a better way. And so they're trying to teach somebody to make decisions like themselves.
Right.
And then they can't. That is a frustrating and very ineffective way to train people, is to assume that they will make decisions exactly like you make decisions.
Right. Yeah, I think with processes, I'm sure I've seen like a flywheel somewhere that there's like 4 or 5 steps in a process. You have like figuring out what the process is, documenting that process, training on that process, and then improving that process, and then going back around. Mm-hmm. Today, I really want to talk about the part that I think is tougher with scaling is that documenting and training. I think the improving and the creating is something that even a small business of 3 people has. Everyone has processes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how do you, I think with scaling it, to us, it was moving from everyone having it in their head and, can't remember what I was trying to say here. But moving from everyone having it in their head and, when you have 3 or 4 people, everyone knows what's going on. Everyone knows what's happening. And in there, if someone has a spot that they're missing, it's easy to fill in. But when you start to scale and teach, it's like, you have to know what you're supposed to be teaching on. And making sure that if I'm teaching 2 people to sell, that sales process between those 2 people or 3 people or 4 people is the same. And so otherwise you're going to start to deliver a different product.
Yeah. Well, the other element there, and Lars is itching to get in on this. I can tell. This is going to be great.
I forgot I was actually here.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you've dozed off about 3 times. So welcome back. It's Thursday morning.
Hi, guys.
The element that I think you're talking about, Tony, is we try to verbally communicate, this is the way that we do something. Mm-hmm. So this is always how we let's take this podcast, for example. We always use the same software. We don't always do it at the same time, but we have a calendar. We have varying ways to get to the part of recording this podcast. To try to communicate that to a fourth party would be very difficult because it isn't documented, and there's about 4 different paths to get here. Mm-hmm. And then we can tell somebody this is how we do it, but then we are expecting them to memorize it. And if it's not inherently natural to them, then they're not going to be able to repeat the process, in which case we're going to get frustrated and say, you didn't listen to what I said.
Right.
But if it's documented, then you have something to point back to, and then it gives them a clear path to follow as well. Lars, why don't you jump in here? You look like you're just itching to... you got so much energy. You're ready to drive into this conversation.
Oh, baby. I am itchy, but I don't know what's going on there with my wrist. We got a little itch here. So that's some good content for the folks. This reminds me of, I think the book's The Messy Middle, I think talks about this specifically. And Tone, I remember talking to you about this probably 5 or 6 years ago. Might even be longer than that. But I remember, I think you just made the acquisition, maybe of Minneapolis. And I think you're doing your 5th rebrand in the last year or so. But, it was just like, things are a disaster because you have a bunch of different people at a bunch of different ways. And, once you get past that level of, I'm going to say about 12 to 15 people, that's when you start relying on other people for management, and you aren't actively involved in every decision. And that's when you get that frustration because people start making decisions that didn't come through you, and then they're not doing it the right way. And you expect them to make the decisions, but nothing's written down anywhere. And that's why they call it the messy middle, because everyone's kind of going in different directions.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's certainly a challenging art form. That's probably the word I would use for it. I personally, I'm good at whiteboarding it and talking through it, and that's the way we do it. Is we have a big whiteboard in the office. In fact, I think the entire wall is a whiteboard, and we talk through step by step. How are we doing it right now? Was the first part of the documentation. And then, where are the clunky spots? Where are the slow spots? Where's the ambiguity? And then dive into there and figure out how to get it. As far as the next step, this is where I usually exit out the side door. But the next step, there are different softwares. I know you guys have used some as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now with, honestly, one of the most effective currently is just using ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
Record the conversation, take the transcribed version, throw it into ChatGPT, and have it summarize it for it. That's been our MO the last little while. But I know there's a pile of different things, and it makes such a big difference, especially when you get to that scale of, let's call it 50 people, like where you're at right now, Tony. It's because you have so many different decisions in a day, you have so many different levels of management, and if everyone's doesn't have a like that backbone to go back to, things just start going sideways. And it's so much easier to do it with 5 and 7 people than at 50 and try and go backwards.
Oh yeah.
Well, and when it comes to hiring and training new people, you have to have something to train them on, right? Like if you're a 10 employee company and your employees are pretty staffed, maybe one person comes, one person goes, and you're not having much turnover, you don't need to retrain on processes. Everyone knows what they're doing for the most part. But as you're growing and scaling, you're hiring a lot of people, and you have to have something to tell them, this is how you do your job. And then all of a sudden person B leaves and someone new comes in, and you want them to be doing it in a similar fashion. Without that written and recorded or something for them to learn from, you end up with you could end up with a new, totally different process.
Yeah. Well, I remember years ago, this is probably 2011, something like that. We attended a conference. It was with the MSc program, and they did an event with it's part of like 5S Lean process, Six Sigma, whatever that is. And they walked us through how to document a process, each step with little sticky notes, and put it on the wall.
Yep.
And then identify the core events that need to happen if an event changes from one person to the next, and kind of lay it all out on sticky notes, and then come back and assess it and say what elements can be removed and simplify that, right? So it's pretty cool to visualize that. So once you visualize that, now you go, oh, okay, now I can make this happen. And it was that event was very impactful for us because we came back and said, oh man, like this, we can use this tool to document our processes or at least workflow it. So another tool that I would say that would be a very good resource for document and processing is a book called Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz. And it really talks about kind of the art of documenting and scaling your business. And I literally just toss this in Gemini to get the steps around it. One of the big things is capturing the systems. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. And is figuring out the high frequency tasks that need to be done, and then choosing the right format for it to be documented. What?
I couldn't tell if Lars was sleeping.
Oh, he just fell asleep. He's that bored. Here, so choose the right format, and it says either a simple checklist, a written procedure or an SOP, video tutorials, flow charts, screenshots with annotations, and audio recordings. Now, the cool thing is this book was written, I don't know what year it was, but it was well before the release of ChatGPT and Gemini and all these other large learning models right now. Large language models.
Large language models. Yeah.
I just mess all those up. Anyway, here's
Learning
the point.
language models.
Sure. That sounds good too. Anyway, here's the point. Now you have the ability on the fly, and I did this yesterday. I was driving into the office. I had a talk that I needed to give to our company, and I wanted to make sure that I had my thoughts organized. So I pulled up the Gemini app, threw it on live mode. It's got like basically a live interaction mode, just like I'm talking to you, and said, "Hey, I am going to be talking to our company about this morning. I'm going to just brainstorm all the information to you. I want you to capture it and organize my thoughts into bullet points so that I can make sure I stay on track when I give this communication." And then, so I just vomited a bunch of information to the robot. It then captured it, and it fed it back to me and said, "Here are all the points." And I said, "Is there anything else that I need to make sure that I would add into this? Is there anything that I'm missing?" Made a few suggestions. Okay, cool. Now it just completely popped out 5 bullet points for me to make sure that I remembered it, and it actually organized it in a more meaningful way. So think about that through a workflow process documentation. You literally, like Lars was just saying, you just talk through, this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm doing it. Help me organize it and put it into a workflow process. Well, now I have a living document that I can hand to somebody else.
Yeah, the biggest challenge that we've had, and probably my biggest frustration with this is, this takes a lot of time and it takes effort to document all this stuff. And then the natural tendency, I mean, AI is still a very foreign concept to most of us. So the natural tendency is you're going to put it into a Word document, and then you're going to save it on some folder somewhere, or maybe print it off and, tack it to the wall, where it sits and grows dust forever. So that was, to me, I think, the more of the challenge is about how do you implement it into your process of using the process. And we've struggled with that. And I know we literally have these processes on the wall and everything. And, I'm not sure they ever get looked at, probably when you're onboarded, and that's it.
Well, that's the human side, making sure that because it requires the human to follow the process. And if it's not natural, and, I always go back to this whenever we're talking about processes inside of our organization, because it just stuck to me so much with Glenn Younger. Make it easy to do the right thing and difficult to do the wrong thing. And we oftentimes make it so easy to do the wrong thing because we've made the process too complicated or put too many barriers in the way for the process to be easily used and effective.
So I also want to jump into that comment, Chad, because I think we've attributed that saying to Glenn multiple times, and he says it wasn't actually his.
It's his dad's. I think he said it was his dad's. But Glenn also said that once you use it so many times, I don't remember what his number was, but then you get to attribute it to yourself. So effectively, it's my quote now.
So that's now you. Okay.
Naturally.
But I do like to give Glenn the recognition for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So but before ChatGPT, I mean, you guys, Chad, you've documented your processes very well. How did you do that before ChatGPT? I mean, I've seen a lot of you have very fancy colored documents, and at least they look cool. And I assume there's some substance in there. How did you go about doing that? Like, what was your?
We'll take that as a compliment. Most of it was not me. It was me asking other folks to do it. Okay. I like the idea of it, but the actual functionally putting it together. I'm a very big checklist guy. So when something, two things. When things need
Sandwiches.
to get. I do like sandwiches. When things need to get done, I like to get a visual checklist because it gives me an understanding of simply where are we at in the progress. It's just kind of how my brain is wired. I'm not great at making them nor sticking with them, but I do like them. We have gone through several exercises inside of our organization where we've done these 5S events where we kind of simplify a process or an area or clean it up. And then we've also taken a really big focus on workflowing processes. So so I'll talk a little bit about how we got to that point and how we've been able to accomplish it. One, frustration mostly is coming down to it lives in somebody's head, but then we're expecting other people to repeat the process and they're not repeating it effectively. And then people get frustrated. Right. And one of our core values in our business is don't be frustrated with unmet expectations if you've not clearly defined them. Our number one core value is defined expectations. Well, that really, it's hard to not have documented processes or clearly explained processes and then also say that your core value is defined expectation. So we really kind of tie those two things together. That's where I was talking about earlier. Is this an automated process or is this software driven or is this just a human process? If it's software driven, how do we tie that process so tight that they can't deviate from the process? Well, in order to get either one of those things, we have to start with the activity or the process as a whole. And I said the word process 1,000 times, so I get myself frustrated with it. So we sit back and we have a couple of people in our organization that are really good at, one, asking questions, and two, that are really good at documenting things. And so they will observe. They'll go in and say, what is this thing that we're trying to do? And then walk me through how you do it. And then they are really good at documenting the process. Now, we've already said there's really great tools out there with ChatGPT and Gemini that will help you with that now, but it's literally observing and saying, oh, okay, so you pick this thing up and then you move it over here and then you turn this thing on and then you grab this thing. And so they literally just document it. One of the biggest process events that we did was a project workflow. We were having some issues where we were having breakdowns in a project effectiveness, because when we call a project, it's a job site that has multiple openings and multiple complex trades working together. And sales would be involved in quoting it and estimating it, and then it would be handed off to purchasing. Purchasing would grab it, then it would go to a project manager and then installers and everybody else. Right. And there was a lot of breakdown in communication. So we literally brought 5, 6, 8 people into a room with sticky notes and repeated the similar process that I learned in with Medico and just outlined it all on a big board, and then we digitized it.
Yeah, and I know we've done similar. I'd add on a few things. I'm not sure. I kind of zoned out there for a while, but in my defense, it was Chad talking, so naturally but having the person involved that is actually doing the action, that's critically important. It's natural for the manager or the owner or somebody to, okay, well, I'll document this process and how the process should be. And that is really going to leave a gap because you always have to compare it to what's actually happening. So having the person that's doing the task, it's very important to have them actively involved. And the second thing I would add to that would be when you're getting started, kind of starts at a high level, but then each, I think of it as different nodes, right? Nodes on a chain. And then you dive into the specifics of each one, because when you start talking originally, it'll be at a high level and you get the estimate approved and, or the quote's approved. And then it goes to, we go to install it, something like that. Well, there's probably 40 steps in there somewhere. So that's where, using just the sticky notes, I think that's called the IDEO method, IDEO. It was a consulting firm I know way back when, but that was basically what they did, and using the sticky notes. So every time, something came up, and it's handy because everyone can write on sticky notes. And even if you, you don't know where it goes yet, you just kind of stick it on the board. So yeah, that was just kind of the thought that came through my mind as we were going through these processes. We did the same thing for sales. And our first kick at it, we didn't involve this, like the frontline sales guys and missed about half the
minor
stuff.
issue.
Yeah, it was small problem.
I was just going through our website here because we've got a lot of those processes documented. Kind of going back to Tony's, I guess, question. That was the project overview was a very detailed, thorough, probably 4 or 5 meeting process that we went through to document that. But we also have a single page document that is laminated and posted on the wall in our conference room, which is a step-by-step instructions on how to reset the conference room.
Yes.
Like it says, There's a picture. This is what the room should look like. This is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it wasn't a complicated process. And that particular event was part of, we do this a few times a year where we'll say, all right, let's get a refresh on the facility or a refresh on a process. And so we put together a team, and there was 3 people, and we said, we want you to set up the conference room, document how the conference room should be set up, take pictures of it, put it together in a Google Doc, print it off. And we effectively put together a process for how to put together a process, ironically. And that way it is standardized. And so at any point in time, any one of our employees, we could say, hey, can you go please make sure that the conference room is set up? They literally walk in there. There's a photograph there. There's a step-by-step 4-page instructions. We have that in our internal lock shop. The way that the lock shop should be reset and cleaned. We have that in our break room. These are the expectations of the way that the break room should be reset. So we have a lot of those simplified things that we just designated a team of 2 or 3 people together to be like the committee to do that process. They worked the process, documented the process, posted the process, and now it's maintained.
You had mentioned you had someone help you. Like, is that a specific role within your company? You said you have some people that are good at documenting those things. Is that a person or?
We have people.
I mean, is it a specific role? Is it a function of your business, or is it someone that is just serves another function that happens to also be good at this and they've assisted?
Yeah, it's changed from time to time, but we have a handful of people that, especially now with Culture Index, we understand who are good with research and documentation, detail oriented. And so we can attach them to the group, and so that they can put that together. And we also have somewhere, I don't know where it is, a documented process on how to put that together, how to put together a workflow. So one of those guys sits on our development team inside of our project, our app development type stuff. And we have one guy, he's been in a couple of different roles. He's currently our controller, but he has a very good understanding of how to observe and understand workflows. So I would pull him in occasionally. We're a small business, right? So we are very fluid in our roles. But I would say, hey, his name is Andrew. Andrew, can you sit in and help document this process? And he, it might take him a few hours to do it, and it's better because of it, just because he was very knowledgeable and beneficial in that. But we have several people that can do that inside the organization once we've identified it.
Yeah, we were so far behind on process documentation. We actually hired somebody. I think I talked about her in our last episode. That's basically all she does is she'll sit down with a group of people. I mean, it's not all she does. She also helps with our training programs and our HR and everything. But that's the big part of her role. We were so far behind on processes, and that she would sit down with a group of people, take notes, and then formulate it into what it should look like. And then the group owner would still be in charge of what does the process look like, but she's in charge of making sure that it's repeatable and something that people can digest.
How do you get people to use it?
That's what we are really struggling with at the moment. So I was hoping you guys could tell me that.
What's the reason why they wouldn't use it?
We have been struggling with how to organize them. So we'll have a process on how to sell an electronic solution, but then we'll also have a process on how to sell operators, and a process on how to sell doors, and then a process on how to answer the phone. But we haven't figured out how to collectively organize all that and put it into something that is role specific. So
And then the next step is when it's time to then sell a door.
yeah.
How do you like I find, and I know this probably has a direct reflection of how I operate, but I find that when it's time to sell the door, we jump into it rather than, okay, find the process, look at the process, and now go step by step through it. So is that just a management thing? Or is
I'm
that
so confused as to why you would have a process to sell a door.
I was just
sorry,
made
like
that up.
measure
We
a door.
don't. We
Yeah.
don't.
Measure a door.
Okay.
I was making, okay.
Yeah. Well, so you're saying process to measure a door.
Sure.
Okay.
Anything. A process. Okay. Buy a vehicle. Okay. There's a process to buy a vehicle.
There you go. Sure.
Okay. So the process to buy a vehicle, then it's time to buy a vehicle, and it's like, it's out the window, and next thing you know, I'm calling Linda and be like, hey, I need quick 70G. I'm driving down the highway in our new vehicle. And she's like, right. So, yeah. So I haven't figured out an effective way to have people actually use them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Once they're documented.
We've started by documenting processes that span across multiple departments or multiple groups of people, right? A vehicle purchase is typically probably you and your finance person, right? You can kind of figure that out on the fly. You and her are communicating on that. But when you have, so one that we're currently walking through is our project handoff process from sales to operations, and what are the different steps? When is the customer involved? Who is responsible for reaching out to the customer? And then what does that checklist look like at the end when the install is complete? And making sure that, whether person A, person B, or person C goes and does the install, that install is done in a similar fashion. The customer gets a similar experience. So for us, it's been used as more of a training measurement of training guide of here's what we're expecting. And then, Chad, I think you hinted at this. It kind of is down to the manager to make sure that that person is following that process. And then the manager has to know where to find that and reference it. It's kind of like what you said about defined expectations. It's setting that expectation and using it as a tool to hold people accountable against. And you kind of, it's learning along the way when someone doesn't follow it.
Yes. So I will say this: one of the most effective ways that we have found to get people to follow a process when it matters is creating either a singular path or a barrier. So you have to get to this point. In order to get to this point, you have to access previous. So let me try to break that down into an actual example. We have a onboarding checklist for a new employee.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for that onboarding checklist to be followed, because we can hire somebody without following the onboarding checklist because it involves 5 different people to do things. So we had to say, well, in order for this person to be added to payroll, you have to start with our payroll software. Okay, so that's the starting point. And at every point through that process, there is another checkpoint that effectively, like, think of it as a video game, right? When you pass through a checkpoint on a racing game, then it extends your time for another 30 seconds or whatever. And so you have to get to that next checkpoint. And in order for them to get through this checklist, they have to go to the starting point, which is our HR software, our payroll software. They create these elements that fills out all of the pertinent information about the employee. It is going to also at that point require a company email address. That company email address has to be created from our admin team. That admin team, once they create that company email address, then it flows into creating a Brevo access control for the access to our Brevo system. It creates access to our software. It goes down this entire pipeline. That also triggers. It also requires a work phone number inside of that form, which that triggers our training director to get a new phone set up for that person. Like, there are steps along the process that require the next step to be activated. So that forces the following of the process. And then it's all documented in one single place. So I guess to summarize that back, it's how are you enforcing a checkpoint along each element that requires the process to be followed. And if there's not a reason for that to be followed, then nobody will. So
Right.
if it's not painful enough, or it's not an inconvenience, or they can go about it without doing it, you think of it, try to think of it in other human ways. Right now, if you get in your car and you try to drive down the road without your seatbelt on, it's going to ding.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Most common new vehicles have that, that notification in place. You have two ways to stop that dinging from happening. One, put on your seatbelt, or two, buy one of those bypass devices that you plug into the seatbelt so that it deactivates the dinging, right? But that will continue to ding until you do one of those two things. So go back to your processes inside your business. Right. What is causing an alert to happen for you to move to that next step that you're desiring?
Right.
Never thought of it that way, but that makes sense.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, and I think going back to, you tail that in with the Uncle Glenn's dad there, if you make it easy to follow the process, if you make the process easy, people will follow it.
Yep.
And if it's too hard or too complicated, they throw it out the window.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings me to kind of my next thought is, how often are you guys reviewing these things? Because that's also the big thing is, you'll get this nice polished piece of paper. It'll be great. You'll stick it on the wall. Mm-hmm. See you never.
Yeah.
Right. And then you go back and look at it someday and you're like, it says to send a fax to this place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's probably been a while. So
I think you need to treat them as almost like living documents. If someone's doing something, you need to build a culture of improvement. And if someone's doing something that doesn't make sense, make sure that they're speaking up and saying, hey, this process is now this. And then you have to make sure that people understand that if I start doing something differently, I need to make sure that process is updated to match what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I think it's just kind of building that culture of continuous improvement and an awareness of how you need to document that, I guess.
The thing that I would say on that, Lars, is it's kind of it's probably one of the biggest excuses that people use around not documenting things is because by the time I finish documenting it and putting it in place and having a process complete, then it's going to have changed. So why even start, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is a theory that people. So I would say on that, we're probably absolutely terrible with having a regimented review process for a process review, right? And so it happens whenever if you're actively using it, using the document or whatever, then you're going to effectively treat it as a live document because you're going to update it as it changes. Or if it requires you to go back to that document, you will identify that the process has changed. Here's an example. We order all of our vehicles. So you were just talking about vehicles a little bit ago, and I'm accentuating.
I've never used that word ever.
Vehicles,
because it's not a word.
We use a fleet system to order those, and so we have a document. It's a Google Doc. I'm looking at it right now of 1, 2, 3 major components of that ordering process. Each of those steps are assigned to an individual. And then, so one of them is the actual ordering of the van, and it's got the contact information on who to order it from, how long it takes for them to typically get there, how it should be ordered, like all that information is there. Then the next step is the van build out. And there's somebody responsible for getting the interior walls, the inverter installed, GPS installed, power cabling for the machines, who's going to handle the tool inventory, who's going to handle the stock inventory. That process is documented. Now I'm looking at it, and the contact for the fleet management company is old. So that document has not been updated since that person has left. But you can pull this up and have, like, if all of the people that are involved in ordering vans are not involved in the company the next time we need to order them, there is a step-by-step process here that would get them 97% of the way through. what that should look like.
So how do I find that document? If I'm a new employee and I'm a part of your accounting team, do you have like a massive accounting manual that you hand me? Do you have this stored online? Is this like a giant file drive on Google Drive and it's just a bunch of folders that I look in? How are you categorizing or how are you organizing these?
So that's a great question. We have two different places, and which pains me to say that and also frustrates me. But
fun.
We have one major place that we keep all of our documentation, which is our team website. So it is a simple Wix website. It costs us like $400 a year to operate. Okay. It is a password protected site. So it requires an employee to have a login to it. And we have a simple forum turned on where you can post documents, PDFs, images, comment on it, search it, and all that stuff. That's available on that team website. It's team.locdoc.net. So there's lots of processes documented there. Our all team meetings have all of our agendas housed there. There's links to benefits information, all that stuff there. The second place that we keep a lot of stuff, and there probably should be some interlinking here now that I'm saying this out loud, but we have a shared Google Drive.
Okay.
So we that is accessible to anybody in our organization, and it has a very, very, very detailed SOP that was put together by our data management team that says this is how folders are supposed to be created and organized. But and I'll say this, which is a great philosophy. I love it. It makes me super happy to see it documented that way. I also really like Google Drive because you can just search anything. So as long as it's in there, if it's a document, if it's an image, if it's a PDF, whatever, you can type in a few characters. So that's what I just did is I pulled up Google Drive and typed in van and boom, I have a van ordering process right in front of me. So we have that for accident processes, like really any word or search criteria that you could think of. You could go to one of those two places and find a document. That's going to walk you through the process. I would prefer it to be all in one place. We started in several different areas. This has been the most long-standing iterations that we have had, and we've been doing this for about 5.5 years.
Lars, do you have processes documented? Do you organize them in any fashion? You haven't been doing much talking here, and knowing your personality, I'm kind of wondering if there is much documentation. But I imagine you have something. You have a large organization that
I'm just
seemingly
fighting
successful.
to be alive right now.
Okay.
But it's. I would just say you should probably talk to Matt about what we have.
Okay.
I'm sure we have stuff written somewhere. I know that was
you maybe would have talked to him beforehand and found that.
I'm sure we have something written.
We have, we have lots of typewriter stuff all over the place. The vast majority we do have on OneDrive, and there is a specific folder that is. I think it's called written processes. And that is it. Some of the other tools I'm just going to throw out there. I know Scribe is one that's pretty popular these days because you've probably heard something about a picture being worth a bunch of words. Even better than that, video. Loom, Loom is what we've used in the past. Loom just does a screen record. It's another free one. So because lots of the things we're doing are computer related. So we'll go on there and it'll just screen record and you can speak over it while you're doing it. So Loom's been a great one. Scribe I personally haven't used, but I know some of our team has. And then all these things are just housed in OneDrive, written processes, and then by department. And that's the same thing. You just search. But I mean, it's not perfect, but I think as AI gets better, it makes it much better because if you're using Google or Microsoft, which I'm going to say most people are, it either comes standard or a little upgrade to use Gemini or Copilot. Thank you. Yeah. And then you can literally just ask it and say, what is our process to buy a van? and it'll search through all the documentation you have everywhere, and it'll give you a summary.
Yeah, we actually built
and the reference.
A process GPT called How We Do It. Take zero credit for that name, but
it was creative. So
yeah. But yeah, so we've uploaded a lot of our processes into that. We just did that about 2 weeks ago. So we're experimenting with it and seeing how it does. So it learns all of our processes, and then you can ask it, what do I do in this situation? We'll see how that transpires, but so far so good.
Ooh, a little tease for a future episode.
Yeah, that would be that's a great tool. Like Gemini has the ability to create gems, which you can have it resource your internal documents inside your Google Drive. So you would basically be the same way, where someone could go in there. There are still some limitations on the shareability around those things, but there are a lot of companies right now that are building customized AI agents that would be able to do that for your entire company. So they would all be able to resource it, on a team website or an internal website or something like that, where they could just ask it a question in just a normal language conversation, and it would be able to feed it back. A couple other things that strike me through this conversation. Number one is finding somebody in your organization that's really good at one that is divorced of the process to observe and document it. And the reason why I say that's important is because and give them the freedom and flexibility or autonomy to challenge the process and ask, why are you doing it this way? Because oftentimes the processes that we have developed as either an owner or a technician or someone that is a practitioner is probably overly complicated and unnecessary. I know that's painful for some people to hear, but there's a high probability that there's a better way or an easier way to do it. So finding somebody that can do that, give them the autonomy to ask those questions and challenge it. And then secondly, look to simplify the process.
Oh God, yes.
Here's something that I've found in my years from understanding, documenting, and having people document processes. I'll say, hey, go document this and let's review it. And they come back and then they go through the process with me, and I want to pluck my eyeballs out or smash my head against the wall because it is so complicated and it's painful. But what it has done is forced us to simplify, delete, minimize, fix something, because you go, oh, no wonder nobody follows this process, right? Because it's absolutely stupid. Like, I can't believe that we actually impossible. Have ever. Yeah, it's impossible. And who is, so you literally have to read this 4-page document to be able to do this one thing. Why? Then it's overly complicated. So that's where I was going back to the statement I made earlier. How do you simplify that out, make it to where, okay, here's a good one. I was on Aloha's website the other day, the Associated Locksmiths of America. Is that what it's called? And they have a form on there. Here's a great example. You should go look at it. There's a form on there to apply to become a member. I could not make it through the form. This thing has probably, I don't even know, 85 fields to complete.
Look at that. Wow. All right. Yeah. It's quite the form.
So are you making it easy for people to
do the right thing?
Apply. You make it easy to, like, and so I mean, I'm just trying to use that as an example because it's within our industry, but look at that. And then you look at some of your internal processes. Are you making it too difficult for people to follow the right process because you have made them jump through so many hoops? Like that, to me, like name, it just discourages it.
Is it more than just name, phone number? What's your name, Lars?
There was
What's
about
your phone
40
number?
fields
Blank.
there.
Save. Yeah. Done. Yeah. Hey, you're a member. Welcome.
Yeah. He wasn't exaggerating.
Yeah.
Like, and for somebody like me to look at that form, that's one exhausting. And
let me guess, you're not a member.
No, not going to do it because
not going to do it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if that, I can give you that, I can give you 13 other examples around that same thing. But that's the way that if you're asking a technician, Tony was called me the other day and was asking me a question about communicating with some teams, and it's like, what are we making it easy to communicate with somebody? Or are we making it complicated to communicate with somebody? And if we're asking somebody else to jump, like if I said to you, Lars, hey Lars, in order to contact me, I'm going to need you to send me an email and then contact this other person, and I need you to check my calendar in advance and do all these 13 different things before you text me. Just don't text me. You know, that's effectively what I've asked you to do. And he fell asleep again. So it may be a poor example, but if we've made it too difficult for people to get in contact with us, then they're probably not going to do it, because they're not going to follow that process. They're just going to go a different way.
Right.
Okay.
Have mercy. We got to be near the end here, aren't we?
This is Lars's lowest talking that I've ever heard out of him.
It's, I'm just taking it all in, learning about how, first of all, goofy the word process is, not process, and why this is important.
Well, it is important as you scale your business, because you've got to get people on the same page. And I think that it's an inhibitor for growth, because you can't trust people to do certain things if you don't have it documented.
For consistent growth, for sure. Because when you have growth, you have turnover. That's just part of it. When you have 80 people, more people turn over. And when more people turn over, you lose experience. And when your business is based on experience, which most are, that's where you have issues. You have challenges, because when the experience leaves, then the company's, squanders. So it is important. It's painful for some of us, but it is way more painful not to have them, as I think Tony, you and I have both experienced for the last about 5 years.
Yeah.
So
I think.
All right, Tony.
Seems like you.
Oh.
Well, I was going to say, it seems like you got started with process documentation, but kind of before you grew. You were smarter than Lars and I. But
we could all agree with that. I think that's probably
what a dumb thing to say, Tony. And you are not speaking on my behalf there. Like it sounds like you're smarter than Lars and I. Excuse you.
In regards
you can
to
admit
this,
he's smarter than you, fine, but
no.
I'm not. So also, why do I always wear gray on this podcast? Every week, like, this is a different shirt. This is a different gray shirt. And I sit on a gray chair, and have a gray wall.
He just woke up, guys.
Time.
Ladies and gentlemen, he just woke up.
Take it all in here, guys.
Tony,
land this plane for us. Let's go.
Yes, are we wrapped up on this one? Because we need to get to the next episode.
Yeah. What biggest takeaways? Lars?
I'm going to revisit how we are documenting them, but are we using the tools that are available? I know I personally use GPT all the time. I wonder if our team is. I wonder if they're familiar, if they're comfortable with it. I wonder if they use Copilot. That's going to be my takeaway. And my recommendation to anyone is, if you're not using GPT, download it. It's free. Throw it on your phone and just play with the app. I think we talked about this about a year ago, but this is another call out. Just play with it. Give it a go, because it's a very, very powerful and handy tool.
Yeah, my takeaway was the Uncle Glenn quote, make it easy, make it simple to do the right thing. I think that's one thing with our processes, making sure that, okay, so here's what we want people to do. Are we putting things in place to make sure that it's easy for them to do that thing? I really like that one. That's my biggest takeaway.
My biggest takeaway is a reminder to our team that we need to gather all of those and get them to one singular location so that they are easier to find. They are easy for certain people to find, but not everybody. And so that seems like a good job to delegate for Zach.
Cool.
So that's what
Chad,
we're doing.
what's next?
So Lars mentioned multiple times about the importance of process documentation around turnover. And so I think our next topic that we're going to break down is relating to turnover is how to know when it's time to let go of someone and what are the steps to do that. So effectively, termination, turnover, hiring, firing, it's all part of the process. Specifically on the firing termination side, how to know when it's the right time, how to do it effectively, and how do you communicate it to the rest of the team.
All right.
So the process of letting someone go will be the topic of our next discussion.
Can't wait. More process.
I'm excited for this. I'll have something to say. I'll probably have a little more rest before the next episode.
All right. Well, thank you again for listening to the Unlocked podcast. We are excited that you've been here. Thank you for all the feedback that you've given us over the last several weeks. Hey, guys, I think that Tony has this episode incorrect, and I believe that next episode is episode number 40.
Well, this one is 39, so yes, that would make that one 40. Correct.
Well,
40 does.
The title of here is episode 38. Anyways,
Salty.
no, perfect. So we're going to be on episode 40. That's a big milestone.
Wow. Now, if we could only get somebody to listen.
All of these are available on unlockedpodcast.com. There's a blog there associated with most of the episodes. You can subscribe on all the podcast platforms as well as the video version on YouTube. Thanks again for reaching out on LinkedIn, email, text message, however you're reaching out. We'll be happy to discuss further topics with you. So please keep those coming our way. We'll see you next week on Thursday morning for the Unlocked podcast.